two West Point classmates, soon to be in Congress on opposite sides of the aisle. Joining us tonight, Michigan Republican Congressman-elect John James and New York Democratic Congressman Pat Ryan. Thank you both for being here. I know it's interesting to be in the same spot up on Capitol Hill, but we have this segment, Common Ground. Where do you all think you'll get common ground? Representative-elect James, first to you.
Sure. We're on different sides of the aisle, but same side of the Constitution. The colors that matter most to me and Pat for the past over 20 years, if it's not a West Point cadet gray, it's certainly red, white, and blue. It's an honor to serve my constituents, my country, and do that right alongside my friend Pat Ryan.
Congressman Ryan, you served two tours, combat tours in Iraq as an intelligence officer. You have 2 Bronze Stars. And John, you flew as a helicopter pilot in Iraq as well. And obviously on the issue of veterans and the military, there's a lot of common ground here. Congressman Ryan.
Well, almost 20 years ago, John and I took that same sacred oath to support and defend our Constitution on the same football field at West Point. The fact that we're here now together on the Capitol, it's incredibly... I couldn't have said I would have seen it coming, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm excited. I think we have a lot to work on. Certainly, veteran mental health, veteran suicide is an area I am frankly pissed off about, the fact that we've failed our veterans. Yeah,
and Congressman-elect James, are there other things you think you guys can, I mean, this is a partisan place, and we've been trying to find left and right to get together on big issues. There are actually a lot, but sometimes they don't get to that point because both parties go to their corners.
Yeah, we're not going to move off this issue, and we're going to dispense with the partisan BS. Pat's absolutely right. Pissed is exactly the correct emotion. The 22 veteran deaths due to suicide per day, we're learning is actually an underestimation. For the past 20 years, there are overdoses and accidents that have happened while riding a motorcycle or while cleaning a gun that can be attributed to mental health concerns and veteran suicide. We haven't done enough to take care of the people who have sacrificed everything, to take care of our families. And I know that Patrick and I are going to be working together to take care of our brothers and sisters in arms, veterans, and putting our political differences aside. And I'm excited to do that.
Obviously, military and supporting Ukraine has been a part of some of the Republican and Democratic representatives on Capitol Hill, but there are some differences up there. Senator Hawley from Missouri says U.S. arms transfers to Ukraine are impeding our ability to prevent a war in Asia by supplying Taiwan with the weapons it needs to deter a Chinese invasion. And here's Congresswoman Sparks from Indiana on that very issue.
I think all of this are very serious threats, and they're very interconnected. If you look right now in our foreign policy, we haven't had a very strong foreign policy, and Russia, China, and Iran teamed up against our country. So we need to come together and really look at our national interest, and it is our national interest that we do have freedom in Europe, that we do have freedom in Asia, and also in Latin America.
So both of you talked to that, Ukraine aid versus what we may need to do with Taiwan and how that interacts. Congressman Ryan, first to you.
Yeah, look, I mean, when dictators and authoritarians are allowed to flout the rules, to invade sovereign countries, that sends a message across the whole country that we are weak and will not stand with our allies. So when we see Putin doing what he's doing, we have to clearly, strongly, in a bipartisan way, reject that, which is certainly something that I believe. And that will have ramifications, certainly, on the Taiwan issue, for example, and all of our national security and foreign standing. And I do think that's an area where we can and must find common ground.
Congressman-elect James?
See, Pat Ryan and I didn't get commissioned to accomplish mission or take care of our soldiers. We were expected to do both, and we're going to do both, walk and chew gum at the same time. We must keep our promises to our allies across the world and make sure that we keep communism at bay. But we also must make sure that we are holding the Pentagon accountable to the taxpayers here right now. I believe that it's absolutely possible and absolutely necessary to execute our Article 1 duties as congressmen, but also make sure we keep our nation safe from growing spheres of communist influence that are beginning to encroach on the Western Hemisphere. This economic colonization coming from Beijing and Moscow must stop. And I'm looking forward to working across the aisle for anyone who's willing to help us do both.
You know, this is the 3rd Russian base that has been attacked. We are assuming it's the Ukrainian action. And What about that? Is there a thought about U.S. weapons going to Ukraine being used to attack bases in Russia? You guys both okay with that?
I'll certainly say we have had a reputation, no greater friend, no more fearsome rival or foe. And when our allies are in trouble, we have to come to their defense. That's what we've been doing in Ukraine to great effect, and we need to continue to support them. Of course, we need to have proper oversight like everything that we do. John and I both served in the longest wars in our country's history, so we're here to both have a strong national security, but also to make sure it's done in the right ways with the right oversight.
And piggybacking on what Congressman Ryan just said, we have a duty for nuclear non-proliferation, and by failing to keep our promises to allies, it makes it more difficult to achieve diplomatic ends in order to make sure we don't end up in situations like this in the future. When you have Gaddafi, whose head ended up on a spit, and if we allow Ukraine to fall and Zelensky potentially be killed by a Russian hit squad, what's the rest of the world going to think about the Americans' word? Trying to get Iran to denuclearize, trying to get North Korea to negotiate. People are looking at the actions of America, and they're holding us accountable at the end of a gun.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're keeping our promises to our allies, but also keeping our promises to taxpayers. We must do both.
So what I'm hearing from both of you is let Ukraine do what they will, even if it's our stuff.
Ukraine has to check the authoritarian impulses and authoritarian behavior of Putin with our support, with European support. That sends, as John said, a signal. This is a test of our resolve and our unity as democracies against authoritarian communist regimes.
Yep.
We have to stand together.
All right, I'll be interested to hear how you all come down on this. This is the president today. We played this earlier, but asked about his trip to Arizona. Take a listen.
Mr. President, why go to a border state and not visit the border? More importantly, no room where we invest billions of dollars in the inside.
So he said there's more important things. Why not go to the border was the question. There's more important things going on. Congressman-elect James and then Congressman Ryan, the border issue for both of you, is there a common ground thing there that you all can get to on both sides of the aisle, on either side of the aisle? First to Congressman-elect James.
Well, I'll speak for myself. Border security is national security. We must absolutely secure our borders and stem the flow of human trafficking and drug trafficking that's threatening communities all over the nation. Every state is a border state. Every town is a border town. And we must absolutely secure our borders. But that being said, immigration, legal immigration, is an economic and moral imperative for the United States of America. I serve with dreamers. I've employed dreamers. And I believe immigrants are among the best Americans. We have to do both. I'm excited to secure the border and make sure that we have immigration reform that makes sense for the United States of America.
Congressman Ryan?
Look, we both served in hostile combat zones in uniform, securing borders. I agree. We have to secure our national borders. That is one of the most important responsibilities of the federal government. And I agree that there's significant economic opportunity in allowing those that want to legally come to our country, be part of our community, grow our community. I actually think this is an area where we have to do the work. We have to figure out how to come together.
You think President Biden should visit the border?
I think President Biden should absolutely visit the border. It's part of the executive's job is to keep America safe, and if for nothing else but to listen to people who are keeping us safe every single day. Availing himself of the information is something that the executive should do.
Congressman Ryan?
I don't know what all of his schedule was, so I try to focus on where I go and what I do. But again, I think there's common ground and agreement here. Securing our border is a core responsibility and certainly something I'm focused on.
I know I'm going to find common ground on this. It's the Army-Navy game this weekend. What do you guys think?
Go Army.
Yeah, beat Navy, and I think it's going to be a good game this year. It was a little rough to watch last year, so I feel like we're ready for a comeback.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, thank you both for your service and your upcoming service together up on Capitol Hill. Thanks for coming to Common Ground.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.